They're kicking them out. I can't believe what happened next. r/ScaryStories. The fluorescent lights in the Harmony Gardens lobby buzzed like angry wasps. Another day, another mountain of paperwork, another series of eviction notices I had to hand out. I hated this part of the job. I hated all of it actually, but seeing the hope drain from people's faces was the worst. I was Liam, a social worker. Or more accurately, a glorified paper pusher tasked with managing the slow-motion collapse of other people's lives. Harmony Gardens was my assigned battleground. A decaying brick behemoth on the edge of town, it housed a kaleidoscope of broken dreams and dwindling resources. And now it was being sold. Luxury condos were coming, apparently. Progress. Mr. Thompson, the property manager, a man whose smile never reached his eyes, had made it clear everyone out by the end of the month. My job was to facilitate the transition. Corporate speak for kick them to the curb. My first stop was Mrs. Alvarado's. Her apartment always smelled of cinnamon and dust. She was old, frail, and deeply religious, her walls plastered with images of saints and crucifixes. She'd lived in Harmony Gardens for over 30 years. "They're doing it, Liam," she said, her voice a raspy whisper. Her eyes, though, were sharp, filled with an unnerving certainty. "They're really doing it this time." I sighed, handing her the eviction notice. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Alvarado. I'll do everything I can to find you a new place." She waved a dismissive hand. "It's not just about a place, Liam. It's about what they're waking up. This building, it's not clean." "Clean?" I frowned. "You mean like sanitation?" "No, clean," she repeated, emphasizing the word. "There are things here, Liam, things that don't want to be disturbed. They whisper. They watch. They've been here long before any of us." I'd heard her talk like this before. She always called them the whisperers, just chalked it up to her age and everything. "Mrs. Alvarado, I think you're just stressed." She shook her head slowly. "You'll see, Liam, you'll hear them. They're getting stronger." Leaving her apartment, a shiver ran down my spine despite myself. I blamed the drafty hallways. Next was Marcus. Single father, working 2 jobs, barely scraping by. He lived in a cramped 2-bedroom with his daughter, Lily. Marcus was a fighter, always optimistic, always trying. Seeing his face fall when I gave him the notice felt like a punch to the gut. "This is bullshit, Liam," he said, his voice tight with anger. "Where are we supposed to go?" "Lily's got school here, my jobs are here." "I know, Marcus. I'm working on it. I'm looking at all the options." It was a lie, mostly. Options were scarce. Resources were non-existent. Lily, a small girl with bright, curious eyes, was drawing on the floor with crayons. She looked up at me, her face serious. "The shadows are getting bigger, Mr. Liam," she said. Marcus frowned. "Lily, don't start with that nonsense again." "No, Daddy, it's true," she insisted. "They whisper at night. They tell me things." I knelt down beside her. "What do they tell you, Lily?" She hesitated, then whispered. "They say we have to leave. They say this place belongs to them." I forced a smile. "It's just a game, right?" She stared at me, her eyes wide and unblinking. "No, Mr. Liam, it's not a game." The following days were a blur of frustration and despair. I spent hours on the phone, trying to find housing, navigating endless waiting lists, and dealing with indifferent bureaucrats. The stories of the residents, their hopes and fears, their quiet dignity in the face of overwhelming adversity, weighed on me. The atmosphere in Harmony Gardens began to change. The air felt heavier, thicker. The buzzing of the fluorescent lights seemed louder, more insistent. I started noticing things, shadows flickering in the corners of my vision, the faint sound of whispering when no one was around, a general sense of unease that permeated the entire building. One night, I woke up from a nightmare. I'd been trapped in the hallways of Harmony Gardens, the walls closing in, the whispering voices growing louder and more menacing. I sat up in bed, sweating, my heart pounding. I told myself it was just stress, just a bad dream. But the next day, things got worse. A tenant reported that her belongings had been moved around in her apartment while she was at work. Another complained of hearing knocking on her walls at night. Several residents reported seeing shadowy figures in the hallways. I tried to dismiss it all as paranoia, mass hysteria fueled by the stress of the eviction. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. I spoke to Brenda, my colleague. She was older, more experienced, and far more cynical than I was. "It's just the pressure, Liam," she said, rolling her eyes. "They're scared, they're stressed, they are imagining things. You need to toughen up." "But what if it's not just imagination, Brenda?" I asked. What if there's something else going on? She sighed. Liam, honey, there's always something else going on. Poverty, despair, addiction, that's the something else you need to worry about. I knew she was right on a practical level, but I couldn't ignore the feeling that there was something more at play. Then Lily disappeared. Marcus came to my office, his face pale with terror. She's gone, Liam. I can't find her anywhere. We searched the entire building, every room, every hallway, every nook and cranny. Nothing. The police were called, but they were dismissive. She probably just wandered off, one of the officers said. She'll turn up, but Marcus knew better. He knew Lily wouldn't just wander off. As I searched, I started to notice the whispering again. It was faint, barely audible, but it seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. And the shadows were definitely getting bigger. I found myself drawn to the basement of Harmony Gardens. It was a dark, damp, and forgotten place, filled with cobwebs and dust. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and decay. As I descended the creaking stairs, the whispering grew louder. I could almost make out words, but they were distorted, unintelligible. In the far corner of the basement, I saw a door. It was old, wooden, and covered in peeling paint. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. I hesitated, then reached out and turned the knob. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, unlit passage. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The passage was cold and damp, and the air was thick with the smell of earth. The whispering was deafening now, a chorus of voices swirling around me. I walked deeper into the passage, my heart pounding in my chest. As I continued, the walls started to change. The rough concrete began to give way to what looked like old, crumbling brick, the kind you'd see in a very old building's foundation. Air grew colder still, and the whispers seemed to press in closer, almost like physical presences. Suddenly, the passage opened into a large, circular chamber. In the center of the chamber was a well, an old stone well, its mouth covered in moss and grime, and standing beside the well was Lily. She was staring down into the well, her face pale and expressionless. "Lily," I called out. "What are you doing here?" She didn't respond. I walked closer to her, my hand outstretched. "Lily, come on, let's go home." She slowly turned to face me. Her eyes were wide and vacant. "They want me to stay, mister." "Liam," she said, her voice a monotone whisper. "They want us all to stay." "Who wants you to stay, Lily?" I asked, my voice trembling. She pointed down into the well. "They do." I peered into the well. It was dark, impossibly dark. I couldn't see the bottom. Then I heard it. A faint, guttural growl coming from the depths of the well. And then a voice. A single, clear voice whispering my name. "Liam," I stumbled back, my blood running cold. Lily reached out and grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "They're waiting for you, mister." "Liam," she said. "They've been waiting for you for a long time." She tried to pull me towards the well. I struggled against her, but her grip was like iron. "Lily, stop it," I shouted. "Let me go." Suddenly, Marcus burst into the chamber. He saw Lily grabbing me, saw the well, saw the terror in my eyes. "Lily," he yelled. He rushed towards us and pried her fingers off my arm. He pulled her away from the well and into his arms. "Are you okay, baby?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Are you hurt?" Lily didn't answer. She just stared blankly at the well. Marcus turned to me, his face filled with rage. "What the hell is going on here, Liam?" he demanded. "What did you do to my daughter?" "I didn't do anything, Marcus," I said, my voice shaking. She was talking to something in the well." Marcus looked at me like I was insane. "There's nothing in the well, Liam," he said. "You're losing it." He grabbed Lily's hand and started to lead her out of the chamber. As they turned to leave, I heard the whispering again. It was louder now, more insistent. And then I saw something. A shadow rising from the depths of the well. It was tall and gaunt, and its eyes glowed with an unholy light. It reached out towards Marcus and Lily. "Marcus, look out," I screamed. He turned around just in time to see the shadow engulf them. They both screamed, a single piercing shriek that echoed through the chamber. Then silence. The shadow receded back into the well. Marcus and Lily were gone. I stood there, frozen in terror, staring at the well. The whispering had stopped. The chamber was silent except for the sound of my own ragged breathing. I knew I had to get out of there. I turned and ran, scrambling back through the passage, back through the basement, back up the stairs and into the lobby of Harmony Gardens. I didn't stop running until I was outside, gasping for air in the cool night air. I looked back at Harmony Gardens. The building seemed to loom over me, a dark and menacing presence. I knew I could never go back there again. I called Brenda, trying to explain what happened, but she didn't believe me. She told me I needed to take some time off, that I was stressed and overworked. I knew she would never understand. The next day, the eviction notices were served. The residents of Harmony Gardens were forced to leave their homes. I heard later that the building was torn down, but I'll never forget what happened there. I'll never forget the whispering, the shadows, the terror, and I'll never forget Lily. I still have nightmares about the well. I still hear the whispering in my dreams, and sometimes when I'm alone in the dark, I feel like something is watching me, waiting for me, because some places, some things are never truly gone. They just wait. They whisper, they remember, and they never forget.